Hey guys, welcome back to the Joy of Wrenching. I'm Les, your friendly neighborhood mechanic, and today I've got a 99 Toyota Tacoma. It's a two-wheel drive, but the things I show you today will be the same for four-wheel drive, also for 4Runners. So what you see here, I'm going to be replacing all the different parts of the front suspension on this Tacoma. Again, it'll be very similar for the 4Runner, so this will be really helpful. Come in here, take a look at this setup right here. If yours looks something like this, then yours is going to be the same procedures that I show. We're going to be doing the upper ball joints, lower ball joints, steering rack, lower control arm, sway bar end links, all kinds of goodies. So stick around and see that. All right, so let's go ahead and replace these lower ball joints on this Tacoma. And they look like this. So if yours looks like this, where it bolts in with 4 bolts and has the attachment for the tie rod over here, then you're in the right place. And we're going to go ahead and show you how to do it on the car. But before I do show you how to replace it, let me show you how to test if it's even bad. So if you want to test to see if your ball joint is any good or not on these cars, just jack it up off the ground and then get you a pry bar and set it in here between the lower part of the control arm and the ball joint itself. One of these bolts right here will do just fine. And then you want to push up and down, and if there's any play in this ball joint, if this separates at all while you push up and down on these two, then that play is telling you that that lower ball joint is bad and you need to replace it. All right, so the first step in getting our lower ball joint out is going to be releasing the outer tie rod from that lower ball joint. And so you'll remove the cotter pin, take the castellated nut off of this outer tie rod end, and once you get this off of here, you're going to whack on this part really hard with a hammer. It will release these two. It'll fall out like so, and you can set that aside out of your way. I'll just stick that up there like that, and now we can start working on this lower ball joint, which is bolted to the bottom of our steering knuckle. And then we'll also have to get this lower ball joint stud loose from the lower control arm here. So we're going to remove this cotter pin, this nut, and then we're going to try and break the bond that lower ball joint stud has with that lower control arm. All right, so let's get this thing loosened up. So we'll take our cotter pin off of the castellated nut here, try and get that out. You can cut them off, you can straighten them out and work them out the way that I do, whatever way you prefer. There's no right or wrong way to do these things. And in this case, we've got a 24 millimeter nut on our lower ball joint. So I'm gonna go ahead and loosen that thing up like so. I'm gonna leave it on a few threads because now we're gonna try and break the bond between that stud and this lower control arm. And I wanna try and do it the easy way by whacking on it with a hammer. If that doesn't help, if that doesn't work, we can always use a puller to push these two apart. So to separate the bond that this lower ball joint stud has inside of our lower control arm, I'm going to hit this part right here really good with a meaty hammer. Try not to hit our backing plate for the brakes because that could cause some issues. And we should see these two separate a little bit if there's enough spring pressure forcing down from our strut. But if not, then it'll at least break that bond, and we should be able to put a pry bar in here and be able to separate the two. It's still going to need some love. Oh, there you go. Did you see that? It released. So there's just enough spring pressure to release that stuff without having to put a pry bar in there to pry them apart. All right. So now that this is loose, we'll go ahead and take that nut off the rest of the way. There shouldn't be too much spring pressure, so you don't have to worry about, this stuff's, going flying all over the place. And now our lower ball joint is held to our knuckle by 4 bolts. These are 14 millimeters, 2 on this side and 2 on the back side. We're going to go ahead and remove those now. 14 millimeter here. 1, 2, and then we'll go to the other side and get the other 2. 3. And 4. There we go. Now, our lower ball joint is free to take out. Well, you see how easy it is to take these lower ball joints out. It's just as easy to put them back in. Just got to pay attention to a couple of little things. So this is another Moog part. Again, I like the Moog, M-O-O-G parts. And you'll notice no matter which one you buy, there should be some little dowels or alignment pins on a couple of the holes. And those go towards the back or towards the brake dust shield. And they fit up to align everything in place. And then the new part should come with new bolts. And you want to put a little bit of Loctite on it. I'm going to use a blue Loctite, which is medium strength. It'll keep it from getting corrosion in the threads or backing out over time. And the blue is going to keep it from vibrating out, but it's also going to allow you to remove it if you ever have to in the future. These are wear and tear items. You will eventually have to replace them again. Of course, this has lasted 300,000 miles. Maybe, who knows, are you going to have this truck in 600,000 miles? It's a Toyota. They might. All right, so let's go ahead and put our new one in place. Again, we're going to align our little dowels into their little holes there. And then we're just going to start some of these new bolts that came with the kit by hand. And these new bolts are 13 millimeter head, whereas the originals were 14. So don't go throwing your 14 millimeter socket back on here and go to town, because you'll just round off your new bolts. As always, a good idea to start everything by hand so you don't cross-thread things. A little bit of a fiddly area here, but you can take this whole thing and swing it around, put it in an area that's easier to work. That looks a little bit better. Plus, it should be easier for you guys to see what I'm doing, which is the main idea here, right, guys? I'm going to stick this in here, get it started with the tool. That way it's a little bit easier. My fingers are slipping on these bolts for some reason. There we go. Just make sure that those dowels, those alignment pins are going in where they should. And then I'll get you the torque specs on these. Okay, so these bolts that mount our lower ball joint to the knuckle get tightened to 59 foot-pounds. Kind of a fiddly area here. So what I think I'm going to do, since I can't really hold it in place, is I'm going to go ahead and reconnect our lower ball joint stud to the lower knuckle, lower control arm. All right, so let's go ahead now that we've got this thing in place here. I have not torqued these bolts. They get tightened to 59 foot-pounds or 60 foot-pounds pretty much. And but I need this thing to be held in place before I can tighten them. So I'm going to go ahead and reconnect this stud to our lower control arm here. So let's go ahead and do that now. So in order to get that stud back into our lower control arm, we're going to want to line them up, and you can either pull down on that upper control arm, or you can push up with a jack on this lower control arm to get them to come together. I'm just pulling down just because I'm feeling tough today, I guess. I don't know. But we'll get a couple of threads started once that's sticking through, like so. There we go. And we'll go ahead and tighten this lower retaining bolt and put a cotter pin in it as well. I'll get you a torque spec for that. All right, so this stud that comes down through our lower control arm, that gets tightened to 103 foot-pounds. Call it 105, whatever. But we're just going to go ahead and snug it up a little bit for you with the impact, not torquing it with my impact. I'm just snugging it up. Now that this is secure, we can tighten up our 4 retaining bolts to like so. Now that our lower ball joint is all bolted up in place, everything's nice and torqued up, we can go ahead and put our outer tie rod back into that part of the lower ball joint. So just line up the stud, push it up and home. You may need to wiggle it back and forth a little bit for it to go up into place. Put your nut back on there. And that gets torqued to 67 foot-pounds. And don't forget your cotter pin here. You don't want that thing coming apart. All right, so there you go. Lower ball joint replacement, pretty easy, wouldn't you say? Just 4 little bolts, hold it up to the knuckle, and then this shaft here down through our lower control arm. Now, I told you all the torque specs and everything, but since I'm replacing my lower control arm as well, I'm not going to go ahead and torque all of this in place. So there we go. Not too bad, huh, guys? I know it seems like a lot, but it's like eating an elephant. Just one bite at a time. With the right tools, the right attitude, you can do this at your home all by yourself. And hopefully the tips and tricks that I showed you guys will save you headaches. And by doing this job yourself, you definitely will save a ton of money. So check out the links in the description to the parts, to the tools, and I really appreciate you guys' time today. Hopefully it was worth it. Thank you. Have a wonderful week. God bless you and all that you do.